$600 million US dollars. That is not the budget for a new megaproject rising from the desert sand. That is the price Dubai is paying every single day just to keep the lights on in a city that is no longer receiving guests. And here is the part that should shake you to your core. Just 100 days ago, Dubai International Airport, DXB, was proudly boasting the title of the world's busiest international airport, a machine that never slept, a hub that processed 95.2 million passengers in 2024 alone, a number so extraordinary it bordered on arrogance. But on May 4, 2026, the UAE temporarily shut its entire airspace. Iranian missiles and drones filled the skies over the Gulf. And in a matter of hours, one of the most connected cities on Earth became completely unreachable. 17 airlines suspended flights to Dubai. Thousands of aircraft heading toward the UAE were forced to divert, turn back mid-route, or simply cancel. Flight Radar 24 tracked the chaos in real time. Entire flight corridors over the Gulf rerouted overnight. What you are watching is not a weather delay. What you are watching is the slow-motion collapse of an empire built on the illusion of permanent peace. Let's step inside the golden, deserted terminals and uncover the truth about what is really happening to the dark future of Dubai in 2026. If you care about stories the mainstream headlines miss, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We're just 200 subscribers away from 1,000. Let's get there together. We all understood that Dubai International Airport was the center of the world, a living organism programmed to never stop moving. In 2024, 95.2 million passengers passed through its gates. That figure made DXB the undisputed king of global aviation, a crown it had held for over a decade. But the collapse did not happen overnight. It began accumulating the moment Operation Epic Fury was launched on February 28, 2026. With one geopolitical trigger, the safest air corridors in the Middle East were redrawn as danger zones. By March 2026, the numbers told a story that no airport official wanted to read aloud. Passenger traffic fell to 2.5 million in the first quarter of 2026, down 21% compared to the same period the previous year. But that headline figure barely captures the true scale of the damage. In March alone, the cancellation rate at DXB hit 44%. Let that number sit with you. Nearly half of all scheduled flights simply did not happen. The Independent reported that one-way escape tickets out of Dubai skyrocketed to $350,000. That is not a plane ticket. That is a ransom, a price only the wealthiest could afford. And the elite, with their keen instincts for danger, had already begun leaving before the missiles were visible on radar. The silence at the business class check-in counters became the loudest signal of all. When the people who spend the most are the first to vanish, what follows is never good. More than 37,000 flights were canceled in the weeks surrounding the escalation. International insurance companies, the most conservative and calculating institutions in the world, had already withdrawn coverage. And in the aviation industry, without insurance, a billion-dollar Airbus A380 is nothing more than an aluminum shell sitting exposed in the desert heat. Look out on the runway at Terminal 3 today. The fleet of A380s, once the pride of Emirates Airlines, now stands in long, motionless lines. They look like gigantic beached whales, grounded by a war they were never designed to survive. Ancillary revenue plummeted 85% in just 20 days. The international gateway that once connected 6 continents has been reduced to a narrow emergency exit. Airport officials have been careful with their words. Our focus has been on keeping operations safe and consistent through close coordination and rapid decision-making, they announced. They added that it may take another year for DXB to return to normal passenger numbers. 1 full year. For an airport that has never known what normal downtime even looks like. The few passengers who do pass through are no longer the transit businessmen, the luxury tourists, the families heading on holiday. The crowds at Terminal 3 are now made up of desperate people trying to escape. The airport has not changed. The purpose has. Despite the chaos, India retained its position as Dubai's largest source market with 2.5 million guests in Q1. Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, and Pakistan followed. London remained the busiest destination city with 752,000 travelers recorded, a figure that now reads more like a relic of a different era than a living statistic. And it turns out that gilding the stations doesn't help them fly faster when the contract with peace has been torn apart. Let us take our eyes off the empty runways and walk deeper into the city itself. We are standing before the symbols that once redefined the concept of human ambition. Burj Khalifa, Burj Al Arab, the Palm Jumeirah. In the years before 2026, these structures were not just buildings. They were arguments. Visual proof that a city built on desert sand could outshine cities built over centuries. But in March 2026, these wonders have stopped being arguments for anything except the fragility of borrowed prosperity. A 7-star hotel cannot operate like a roadside motel. It has no hibernation mode. It cannot simply lock the doors and wait for calmer weather. According to reports from Gulf Asset Management Units, luxury hotel occupancy rates in Dubai collapsed from 80% to below 15% in just 14 days. 14 days. The kind of collapse that normally takes a recession years to produce. That $600 million daily figure is not an abstract number. It has a very specific explanation. The desert has no compassion. The glass towers and indoor ski resorts and air-conditioned malls that define Dubai's skyline must run their cooling systems at full capacity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to combat temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius. Stop the electricity and the gold-plated interiors begin to rot within months. The luxury decays faster than the debt that funded it. 80,000 hotel bookings were canceled in a single reporting period. That is not a revenue figure. That is the collapse of a belief, the belief that Dubai was a safe haven. The observation deck at the top of Burj Khalifa, once the dream of millions of visitors, now seems to serve only one function: monitoring the smoke trails from air defense systems rising over Palm Jumeirah. The real estate market is disintegrating at a rate of 12% per week in iconic areas, a pace of decline that has no modern precedent in the Emirates' history. $1 million penthouses on Palm Jumeirah are being listed at fraction prices, but there are no buyers. When a safe haven stops feeling safe, the numbers on the balance sheet lose all meaning. Even Dubai Mall, the global consumer paradise, the largest shopping mall in the world, now looks like a luxury warehouse. The Hermes bags are still in their cases. The Lamborghinis are still on display in the showroom windows. But there is no one left to buy them. We have forgotten a simple truth. Gold is only valuable when it is exchanged, and concrete only has a soul when it is filled with human warmth. Now we arrive at the part of this story that the official press releases will never tell you. In the parking lots of Dubai International Airport, over 2,000 supercars have been abandoned. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, covered in desert dust, keys still in the ignition. This is not waste. This is the coldest economic calculation imaginable. When the roar of an engine can no longer drown out the roar of conflict, life becomes the only asset worth preserving. And the cars are just the most visible symbol of a deeper, more devastating exodus. According to international immigration data, 127,000 resident visas were canceled in just the first quarter of 2026. But look more closely at that figure. 40,000 of those departures were senior personnel, financial directors, medical specialists, engineers, educators. The brightest minds. The people who pump oxygen into the bloodstream of Dubai's economy chose to leave. The Golden Visa, once Dubai's most prestigious invitation, a ticket into the world's most exclusive economic club, is now being used primarily as a passport for departure. International schools witnessed 60% of their teaching staff disappear within 30 days. High-end hospitals lost senior medical personnel at a rate that has left the healthcare system structurally compromised. And here is the uncomfortable arithmetic that Dubai has never been forced to confront publicly before. 90% of the population are foreigners. And foreigners, by definition, are not obligated to remain loyal to a land that is shaking beneath their feet. The Guardian reported what observers had long suspected, that the brain drain from Dubai in 2026 is flowing westward, or toward more stable Asian economies. The talent is not disappearing. It is simply relocating to places where the risk calculation makes more sense. But while the wealthy departed on $350,000 private jets, and the professional class caught whatever commercial flight remained, approximately 1.5 million South Asian migrant workers have been left behind with no escape route at all. The kafala sponsorship system, already controversial, has now revealed its most brutal dimension. When business owners fled quietly, they took the future of their workers with them. Thousands of passports remain locked inside abandoned office safes across the city. These workers face severe shortages of food and medicine in overcrowded collective housing. The contrast is staggering. The elite spend $350,000 to buy freedom. The workers cannot afford $35 for a week of food. Dubai promised a paradise dream. For the low-income workforce that built every tower and polished every marble floor, it has become a gold-plated prison. The shopping malls once designed to sell luxury goods now function as emergency distribution points for basic necessities under military coordination. The tourism industry has collapsed not just economically, but psychologically. The staff are no longer in the mindset to smile and serve. They are waiting for a miracle. Can a city call itself a paradise when the only escape route is reserved for those with unlimited black credit cards? Here is a paradox that took a war to expose. The hub-and-spoke model of Emirates Airlines was once celebrated as an aviation economic marvel. The idea was elegant in its simplicity. Position Dubai at the geographic crossroads between East and West, build a world-class airport, and let the entire planet funnel its passengers through your terminals on the way to somewhere else. Transit passengers accounted for up to 70% of airline revenue flowing through DXB. 70%. That was not a strength. That was a structural vulnerability hiding inside a growth story. According to a report from Euronews, the Middle East tourism industry is now facing a staggering $40 billion in losses from the 2026 conflict disruption. And Dubai is absorbing the largest share of that devastation. The superconnectivity model, the very thing Dubai spent decades perfecting, has officially become its most dangerous weakness. The closure of Iranian airspace forced aircraft to take massive detours, adding approximately 30% to fuel costs on affected routes. This did not just damage profit margins. It tore apart the foundational assumption that safe skies over the Gulf were a permanent condition rather than a geopolitical courtesy that could be revoked at any moment. When maritime routes through the Strait of Hormuz simultaneously came under threat, Dubai's second vulnerability was exposed. The city imports 90% of its essential goods. There is no agricultural land. There is no domestic manufacturing backbone. Everything, food, medicine, construction materials, luxury goods, arrives by sea or air. When both corridors face disruption simultaneously, importing becomes a logistical emergency rather than a routine operation. BBC Work Life presented the figure that should be engraved above the entrance to every future city planning office in the world. Just 3 months of airline disruption are enough to erase a decade's worth of accumulated economic growth. The warning signs were always there. International partners have now begun mapping alternative routes that do not pass through the Gulf, what analysts are calling a permanent geographical shift in aviation infrastructure. No serious airline will anchor its schedule to a hub that can be grounded by a single military escalation. No major investor will build a distribution network through a corridor flanked by active conflict. The lesson Dubai is teaching the world right now is an expensive one. The more broadly you connect, the more of the world's risks you absorb. The superconnection dream is also the supervulnerability nightmare. Let us look at the cold, hard numbers of what the next 10 years may hold. FDI inflows into Dubai's tourism sector are projected to decline by up to 75% over the next 5 years. Not because investors have forgotten what Dubai is, but because in the world of institutional capital, political risk has now been repriced at an unacceptable level. Those who left today will not easily return tomorrow. Trust, once broken in this way, is not restored by a press release or a new megaproject announcement. The erosion of elite human capital is a generational wound. It may take 20 years to fully heal, if it heals at all. The luxury real estate market, the pride of the Gulf, is transforming into a ghost market. The skyscrapers still stand. They still glitter in the desert sun, but they generate no cash flow. They have become lifeless steel structures consuming maintenance costs without producing returns. Even Dubai's most powerful incentives, zero income tax, the Golden Visa program, world-class infrastructure, have lost their magnetic pull. Tax-free earnings mean nothing when insurance costs and security risk assessments have already wiped the calculation clean. The banks of Dubai are now facing a wave of non-performing loans from abandoned infrastructure projects. The dream of unlimited expansion has shattered against the reality of basic survival budgeting. Dubai is no longer building the future. It is servicing the debt of its glamorous past. The target markets that once fed Dubai's tourism engine, the United Kingdom, Europe, South and Southeast Asia, have already begun permanently redirecting toward more stable destinations. In the calculations of travel planners and corporate event organizers in London and Frankfurt and Singapore, Dubai is now a beautiful memory filed under too dangerous to revisit soon. And the unfinished projects remain as the most honest monuments to what happened. The rusty cranes of the sail towers stand motionless against the sky like dry arms raised in a plea for help. International capital ran out before the last bricks could be laid. Dubai in 2026 is not simply a city in trouble. It is a mirror. And if you look carefully, you can see your own reflection in it. We built a world so hyper-connected, so dependent on the assumption of permanent peace and frictionless movement, that a single broken link, one airspace closure, one military escalation, one insurance withdrawal, could bring the entire network down. We confused grandeur with stability. We mistook connectivity for resilience. And in 2026, the world is experiencing something else too, a quiet but powerful shift in values. Travelers who once competed for a room at the Burj Al Arab are now seeking destinations with ancient roots, cultural depth, and political stability. The rise of ecotourism and sustainable travel is not just a trend. It is a correction. People are turning away from artificial glamour and moving toward authenticity. Destinations like Greece, Vietnam, Portugal, and the Swiss Alps are becoming the new safe havens for global travelers. Not because they are more spectacular, but because they are more stable. Because they have roots that go deeper than a balance sheet. Dubai may ultimately be forced to accept a painful reclassification from global hub and #1 luxury destination to a regional service center. From the center of the world to a secondary market. The megaproject era appears to be over. What follows will be a long, quiet struggle to maintain what already exists before the desert reclaims it. Dubai will not disappear. This city has proven its resilience too many times for a final verdict to be written now. But when it reemerges, it will carry the marks of this period. It will be more humble, more diversified, more aware of the catastrophic cost of putting every egg in the single basket called global superconnectivity. Like a giant who has learned to bow before the storm, Dubai will have to rebuild, not from the height of its towers, but from the depth of its foundations. What do you think? Is this the end of Dubai's story, or just the end of one chapter, and the beginning of something more honest? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear from you. If this kind of deep dive analysis gives you a perspective you can't find in the mainstream headlines, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to see the full picture. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because when the next shift in global power happens, you deserve to understand it before the headlines catch up.